Tay Radio Marin. I am your host, Javier Vicuna, and I am joined today by my co host.
Kimberly Escobar.
And in honor of Black History Month, I know we're a little late to this, but, it's never too late to celebrate Black History Month or Black lives in general. So, today, Kim and I will be talking about Black figures in history and pop culture that have impacted our lives or that we just have, found of interest. So we want to share who we chose with you guys. But before we get into that, I wanted to get on to our icebreaker question of the week, which is, what artist or song have you been listening to this week so far? I guess I'll let you, Kim, go ahead.
Okay. So far I listen to a lot of different music, but at the moment I'm listening to a lot of James Arthur's music and the music or the song that I currently really enjoy listening to is Can I Be Him by him by James Arthur, and I enjoy just listening to him because his voice just soothes my ears, and I always just listen to him like whenever I'm like just like doing something. I just have it like in the background, and I play like the same songs. But yeah,
That's for me. I mean, is it for you the same, like where you're always listening to like the same like three or four songs like throughout the whole
yeah,
week or for a long time, Like
hmm
you kind of just don't feel like you want to listen to other music. Like 'cause that's been me like this whole past few months. I've just been listening to like the same three to four songs.
yeah,
Um
yeah. Same. I listen to the same like probably like 8 songs. I have it like just on.
yeah, exactly. You have like your rotation of the same songs that you listen to.
Mhm.
But cool. Okay, I've never heard of James Arthur. But from I gotta check him out. I guess we all gotta check him out.
His songs are like slow. It's
Okay.
like sad kind of,
All
but
right. Cool.
it's
Cool.
good.
I'm more of a like I like fast music. Like I need to listen to something fast that'll get me like motivated. I don't know. That's for me though. I
Yeah.
mean, but everyone's got their space for liking slower music. I mean, I like slower music too on a good day. But I mostly look for something faster. But with that said, I've been listening to a lot of Kanye West this week because his new album Donda 2 will be dropping soon. And he also did like a huge concert live stream this week. That was pretty awesome to watch. The song that I've been listening to by him is still Life of the Party, which is a song that he did recently with Andre 3000, who's another really great rapper. Um, I just love the beat to this song. It's very meaningful. Like a lot of the lyrics, like Andre 3000's verse in the song is really, really good. And I've also been watching Kanye West's documentary, which is on Netflix. It's been coming out the past few. I don't know if you've seen that yet, Kim, or if you
I've
heard of it.
heard about it. Like
Yeah.
I've heard people talking about it and saying like it's pretty good,
Yeah, yeah,
but I haven't watched it.
it's actually really inspiring. Like I finished watching the first episode last night, and it's wow, like he really started from the bottom. But
Maybe I should watch
yeah,
it.
you should watch it. It's a very like even if you're not a fan of Kanye West, I think it's still like a very inspirational documentary for like anything in general. Like if you put enough time into something that you like doing, you'll get
Yeah,
there. So yeah, his story is really great. Despite a lot of the weird things he's done.
yeah.
Anyway,
I've like
yeah.
seen like things on social media about him. I personally don't really listen to his music, but I've heard like some
All right.
music of past music.
Yeah, it's not.
And- Oh,
It's
wait, sorry. I was just wondering for the concert. I heard about that. Did you have to like pay for it, or like anyone could watch it?
Yeah, so like people were allowed to just kind of come in, and no, you have to pay for the tickets. I think it was in Miami. Yeah, it was in Miami, in Florida. Um, and yeah, no, it was huge, and they live streamed the concert, so that's how I got to
Oh,
watch it. Yeah,
oh, okay.
yeah, they live
Like,
streamed it.
oh, I thought it was like a Zoom type of thing.
No, no,
I wasn't
the
sure.
only time I've only seen anyone do a Zoom, um, like a Zoom concert was for Rolling Loud 2 years ago. Um,
Oh, I did not
They
see
they
that.
did Rolling Loud where like the people who bought tickets could get into a Zoom, and they were like a virtual audience, and like they could see each other like during the live stream. I don't know, it was really weird.
Oh wait, actually, I do remember seeing these things on TikTok. That's
Yeah, it was really funny. Yeah. But
mhm.
okay, well, Without further ado, we're gonna change gears. Talking, moving away from hip hop for now. Let's talk about someone who's actually like historically amazing, and that is Frederick Douglass. So Frederick Douglass was a U.S. abolitionist who was born to a slave mother and a white father. Early in his life, Douglass worked as a house servant, where he learned to read and write. He was then returned to a plantation at the age of 16, but when he was about 18 years old, he flew to New York City, and then to New Bedford, Massachusetts. And in 1841, in Massachusetts, Douglass spoke at an anti-slavery convention, which launched his career as an agent for the Massachusetts Anti-Slavery Society. This career brought him frequent insults and violence, because obviously at the time, abolitionists were like looked down upon by the majority of the white Americans. And in 1845, Douglass wrote his autobiography, which has actually become a classic now in America. So, I mean, I highly recommend like reading his autobiography because it's actually really interesting, and he says a lot of interesting things that Kim will later point out. Because so yeah, he wrote his biography. He returned with enough money from that autobiography to buy his freedom, which then led him to start an anti-slavery newspaper called the North Star, and he then moved on to be a consultant for Abraham Lincoln. Yes, the President of the United States. He managed to become a consultant for Abraham Lincoln during the American Civil War, and after the Civil War was done, Douglass continued to fight for the civil rights of not just freed slaves or freed men, but also was in full support of women's rights. So he's really great. He's awesome. He's done some great things. And that's part of the reason why I chose Frederick Douglass, is because even though, you know, he came from a really like most slaves, right, are born into it during this era of the United States. And when you see these stories, when you hear about these stories, like of not just Frederick Douglass, but other like slaves such as Harriet Tubman, like how Harriet Tubman managed to, you know, get slaves to escape. Like, it just goes to show that even though you may be born into something that may not be great or incredible, there's always hope for you to get out there and do something stronger. Like, as long as you can like find that way to leave and do something that'll impact others in a positive way, then you'll get there. So that's Frederick Douglass' story is massive, and that's just a summary of what I could say. But Kim, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I wanted to add on Frederick Douglass. I appreciated how Frederick Douglass has once said, quote, "He was to me no longer slaveholders, either in fact or in spirit, and I regarded him as I did myself, a victim of circumstance, of birth, education, and custom." I greatly support this this quote, because the fact that how we are not born into the life we choose, it is all given by circumstance. And back during slavery, every white man who did these horrible things to the Jews, Mexican Americans, Irish natives, and African Americans were taught to do these things to others by their grandparents, by
Their ancestors,
yeah, their education, birth, and it was all circumstantial. And although it wasn't the right thing, a lot of them, when they got older, they could have changed their way of thinking. And I personally just think a lot of the Europeans were just brainwashed by their ancestors and believing these things, and it was just all circumstantial.
Yeah, no, that's a really great quote, and I really appreciate what you shared, because I agree with you. I think a lot of it, you know, a lot of, you know, there's so many opinions on this subject, but I think it's no surprise to anyone that, you know, white people just had way too much power back then. Like, they just had far too much power. And Europeans, you know, were colonizers. They colonized all over the place, and they would, you know, all do all these terrible things to people. Not like, yeah, they would bring in the slaves. They would treat slaves like crap. They would destroy tribes. They would take people's families away. It was horrible. So I'm really glad that now with history, we've learned from those terrible events that, those things shouldn't be happening anymore. Period.
Hmm.
Like, slavery should be gone now.
Yeah.
Um, but unfortunately, the world still has a lot of crappy people in it, where people believe that, are still racist and are still doing lots of terrible things to people who are not white. So we still have a lot of work to do, but thank you for sharing, Kim. Did
Mhm.
you? All right, so now Kim is gonna start talking about someone who I didn't know about, who she just recently learned about in one of her classes, whose name is Martin Delaney. Martin Delaney. We were
We
both
have,
we were both like before the show. We were both kind of like, is it Delaney, Delaney?
yeah.
You know what? I think it's Delaney. There we go.
Okay, we're gonna go with Delaney. Martin Delaney was a black nationalist of the 19th century. He was also an abolitionist, a journalist, a physician, a soldier, and a writer. Martin had pride in his blackness and reflected his passionate interest in Africa. A saying he had was Africa for the African race. He was the first African American field officer in the U.S. Army and one of the earliest African Americans to encourage a return to Africa, although he was an African American. And Martin was born in 1812 in Charleston, West Virginia. He was one of the son. He was the son of a slave father and a free mother, Samuel and Patty Delaney. His mother had made efforts to teach her children to read and write. He attended Harvard Medical School in 1850 with two other African Americans. Their admissions to the school were that they would immigrate and practice medicine in Africa after graduation. Due to them attending Harvard, whites refused to attend classes with them, and this became a huge conflict with blacks and whites. It went on for like I think a few months where they completely refused to go to any type of class with a black person in it. And 2 years later, he issued his manifesto for the black immigration, the condition of evaluation, immigration, and destiny of the colored people of the United States. Martin believed that blacks had no confidence to be able to change their condition in America. He also believed that even if slavery was abolished, racism would persist as long as there were both whites and blacks living in America. And the only way to rid the society of race would be through amalgamation. I hope I'm saying that right, which means the action, process, or result of combining or uniting. Unlike Frederick Douglass, he did not want blacks to lose their identity as a distinct race, and blacks should be proud of themselves for they possess the highest traits of civilization and would someday instruct the world in the true principles of morals, religion, and law. And I chose Martin because I think he's very powerful. He has a very powerful way of thinking, and he wasn't afraid to stand up for himself or for his race, and he fought for his race. And I really also just appreciated how he embraced his heritage and was curious to learn more about it and willing to go to Africa. He did travel to Africa and he was there for a few months, and he also like just got really homesick due to being in Africa, and he just got to experience what living in Africa felt like and all of that. And I think just learning about your heritage is very important and how he embraced it.
Yeah, no, he sounds awesome. Like I said, I didn't know about him before, but now after you summarize kind of his life, I definitely see that he was very much proud of who he was. He was proud to be black. He was proud to be African, like African from African, not just American, but an African. Like he came from Africa. He went over to Africa to learn more about his ancestors, how they were living there, and I think that's very important for people to know. Like, if you really want to embrace your heritage, you really need to go visit where you came from, because there's a lot of people like that. For like me, like when I went to Mexico, because I'm Mexican, when I first went to Mexico, it really opened my eyes to like how privileged I am to be living in America, because things in Mexico aren't aren't as good as things are in America in terms of like clean water, poverty, violence. Like there's just so much more going on in Mexico in terms of like living conditions that aren't great. When
Hmm.
comparing it to America, like I'm glad that I can just be here sitting down with all this, just be here in the comfort of my own home. We have internet access like anywhere. We don't have to worry about not having internet or not being able to speak with each other. Like that's a privilege that comes with America. So yeah, no, Martin Delaney is seems to have had a very different mindset from Frederick. Like, I mean, I could see how he could be similar to Frederick Douglass because they both
Yeah,
were.
his was all similar,
Yeah,
but they both had like different ways of thinking.
exactly, which I think is really interesting because again, like Martin Delaney, he seems more of like he was more like he was for the people. Like he wanted to
Yeah.
fight for his people, right? And Douglas was more of like the the laws side of it. Like he was very information. He was very intellectual. Both are very intellectual, but they're all again they all have their minds in different. They both have different ways of looking at how to solve the issue of slavery at the time, and also Martin Delaney just never went away from his roots. Like he was always, always saying and being proud of being black. So yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Kimberly. But we're gonna go and ahead and move on to Black figures in media, specifically some musical artists that we chose that have impacted us and or have done a lot for America. But before we get into that, speaking of musical artists, we're actually gonna play a song by a good friend of ours, Ismael Ray Lara, who we've played music by him before. But here is his song Pa Delante, and we'll be right back.
This society try to crush my spirit, but my chicano so don't fall. I'm 100 with it, mi gente dice al 100, puro pa' adelante, pa' atrás a más, que eso ocurre en vivo ya verás. Vamos, vamos, pa' adelante, vamos, vamos, pa' adelante, vamos, vamos, pa' adelante, vamos, vamos, yeah. So who's the victor? You Roman silver, the 30 coins of Judas. I'm at dead gold, abundance of wealth that will never told. I'm the mind alliance, youngest defiance, storm of stars and all the science. Duality of the serpent, don't misinterpret. I'm fine wisdom, age in the temple of the serpent. I'm the flame and of chorus poems, wisdom that hits the soul. Nobility, we still report these hard to fight every day. We born to prove victory, not to fade decay. I'm good at Pachá princess, anything on her horse, ready for war. We don't die, we regenerate. Victory, our fate. On a cool breeze, I move with ease. My intellect stays strapped. I embrace my heritage. The brown, white, and the black. I got my mind on my studies and my studies on my mind.
All right. So that again was Pa Delante by Ismael Ray Lara. His EP has been out for a couple months now. You can check it out. It's called Walking Stars. It's on every single streaming platform you can think of. He's great. We hope to have him on the show again soon. But now we're going to go ahead and pass it over to Kimberly, who will talk a little bit about Aretha Franklin, who is one of a fantastic musical artist. But I'll let her speak more about that.
Okay. Athena Franklin was a music and civil rights activist. Her father was C.L. Franklin. He was a minister known as the man with $1 million voice. Him and Dr. Martin Luther King toured the nations giving sermons. She first started singing at a church choir in Detroit and recorded her first album when she was only 14 before singing to the RCA Records and Columbia Records. When she was 16, she was touring with Dr. King. Her career sparked when she released the song Respect in 1967. This song became an anthem for Black liberation, as quoted. It was also one of the battle cries of the civil rights movement. This song took on a monumental significance. She wrote in her memoir, she was a symbol of strength and pride for Black women during the civil rights movement, in which she was unapologetically herself in the face of white minority and actively opposed to freedom. In 1987, she was the first woman inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, naming her legacy as Queen of Soul.
Yeah, so that's great. So Kimberly, I mean, so you know soul music, right? Or have you heard of the
Yeah.
genre soul?
Yeah, I have.
But do you listen to it every now and then? Not really.
A little bit.
Okay. Because for me, like I love soul, I love R&B, I love jazz. Like all of these genres were all created by uh black people, you know.
But yeah,
Um,
I know that. Yeah.
and a lot of these genres, you know, they have been so influential for a lot of musical artists like that aren't just in those genres. Like they influence like all sorts of music, right?
Mhm.
Especially jazz. But I think Aretha Franklin's awesome, just not just because she's, you know, she has such a wonderful voice, and you know, incredibly talented, but also she did a lot for the American Civil Rights Movement. Like you said, that song "Respect," like I said, that's her probably her most popular song. So I highly recommend any viewers to go listen to that song. It's a really great song, and you've probably heard it before. Like I know it probably like you wouldn't have thought that it was by Aretha Franklin, but you've definitely heard it before because it's been used in movies, countless commercials, countless everything. Like it's all over the place. So yeah, and I think it's also awesome that she was the first woman to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Considering that a lot of the people who got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame were like white. So for her to be not only the first woman but the first black woman as well to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is really awesome. So yeah, I mean, I highly recommend like anyone who's a fan of soul to really listen to Aretha Franklin's discography because there's a lot. There's a lot to unpack from her career. So thank you for sharing that, Kim. Um, Now another question for you, Kim. Do you listen to jazz at all, or are you familiar with jazz in any way?
I'm familiar with it. I don't listen to it like to listen to it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be talking about Miles Davis, who is a trumpet player who has done so much for the genre of jazz. So quick little fact about me is that I ended up taking a jazz history class for one of my college classes back when I was in at the Santa Rosa Junior College. And a lot of the history that we talked about was a lot. It always kept bringing up Miles Davis, and we just talked a lot about Miles Davis, and he quickly became like my favorite jazz artist because, well, Miles Davis is credited for so many contributions to the genre of jazz. Like he helped create new forms of jazz such as bebop, cool jazz, and my personal favorite, jazz fusion, which is literally like a fusion of jazz and rock, and all sorts of different elements. Like he's just awesome. And Miles Davis was, like I said before, best known for playing the trumpet. He was truly a master of the trumpet, and he has become the gold standard for trumpet players around the world. You know, it's like every trumpet player wants to be like, is just be like Miles Davis because he was very distinct with his playing. He made every song sound good. Like everything he touched was gold, basically. And in 1959, Miles Davis went on to create arguably one of the most important jazz records of all time, Kind of Blue. I literally see this album like everywhere, like at every single record store I've been to, like everywhere has a copy of this album. Like it's always there. But it's because this album, it changed the genre a lot. It changed the jazz genre, and really made it so that like people, like anyone can get into jazz. Right. So that's why, I mean, I recommend everyone to go listen to Kind of Blue because it's just great music to do, like listen to. Like, I feel like jazz, it could fit a lot of different moods. Like if you want something that'll relax you or something that'll excite you or something to even listen to while doing homework, like jazz is for you, you know? There's so many, it's so dynamic in what it can do. So yeah, Kind of Blue is Miles Davis's most popular album, and it's incredible. It always sounds so refreshing. Like every time that I listen to it, it sounds like a brand new album every time. So through the 60s, 70s, and 80s, Davis would continue to come up with different forms of jazz, like I mentioned before, and he never once looked back. Like he was always trying something out, something new, and that led him to, you know, create, experiment with different sounds, such as mixing rock with jazz, or making each of his albums, you know, take elements from different cultures. Which makes all of his albums, again, super unique and always really exciting to listen to. So yeah, Miles Davis, legends in the jazz genre. Like any jazz fanatic will know about it. But yeah, I mean, that's these artists, they're great and all, but there's so many black artists that we can talk about, right? Like there's so many that we can talk about that um it's just we have to owe a lot to black artists for creating such beautiful genres that are enjoyed by so many people, like that's the beautiful thing about music, is that it's a universal language, and it's something that anyone can relate to or get something from. But yeah, were there any last words, Kim, that you wanted to mention to the audience regarding, I don't know, anything we've talked about throughout the show? Yeah.
I do kind of want to bring back how you said that music like originated from like black people, like hip hop type music and like jazz type of music. I just remembered how like if like racist people that are white, it's like they listen to these type of music, but they like have hatred towards black people, and it's like the same thing. Like they eat Mexican food, Guatemalan food, and like all these type of foods, yet they don't want them in their country that they
Exactly,
like
yeah.
not really their country. And I just wanted to bring that up, how it's like really ironic how like a lot of white racist people say that.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. There's a lot of racism in America still, like I mentioned before, and it is ironic, like, oh, when white people go and get go to a Mexican restaurant and later go, I don't know, say something super racist on social media or get mad at, like, it's just like they're eating our things, I mean, that's, like I said, that's kind of like what a lot of white people have been doing for so long, is they've just been stealing our things and then claiming it as theirs, and then still like treating us like crap. It's unfair. Because like hip hop is huge now. Like so many people listen to hip hop, and one thing that I've always found interesting, actually, now that you brought that up, is that a lot of hip hop artists that I've listened to in interviews, they always say that one of the measurements that they've seen, like for popularity and that they're making money, is the amount of white people that go and watch their concerts.
I've heard that before. I find that really ironic.
It's funny, but also it's kind of true, because a lot of these rich white folks who go out and spend thousands of dollars to get these really good seats at all these hip hop shows, it just shows that the rapper is making a lot of money. Like, it's a symbol for them to take it. Some artists obviously care about it more than others. But I don't know, it's just funny, and it makes for some funny like memes too, because for example, Tyler the Creator, I don't know if you listen to him at all, but he gets a lot of flack sometimes for making music that I don't know, other hip hop artists have said is catered towards white people, or like it attracts white people. Like, what does that even mean though, right? Like, what does it mean to make music that attracts white people, right? Like that to me doesn't make sense. But I don't know. He makes amazing music though. And I guess, I don't know, something about his music just attracts a lot of white people, because a lot of his concerts are dominantly, a lot of white people are at those concerts. Like, I can speak from firsthand experience, because when I went to go watch him live twice in San Francisco, and it was like, I had to say like 80% white people and like 20% like black and other races. Like it was pretty incredible. And there's a lot of memes about that too. It's just like when Tyler Creator says something about like, we're black artists, we're here for our people. I'm making music to get, black people up on top and to be popular and all that. And then, he just gets flack for it, like saying like, oh, well, your music's only attracting white people. Like it does, like, yes, okay, like white people can listen to music just as much as we can, but also, like you said, like if he's bringing more people together with his music, right? If more white people are starting to recognize that, oh, hip hop music can bring people, because I think hip hop music can definitely bring people together.
Yeah,
and music in general can bring people together. Then he's doing fine. Like I don't think he should be getting that much hate for it, but that's just an opinion. But yeah. Okay, well that's about all the time we have, unfortunately. But thank you all for watching. We will see you all next week. And we hope you enjoyed today's show. Take care, everyone.